Land of peace. This may sound funny, but when I look around, that is what I see. Land of such ethnic and cultural diversity.
When we talk about the environment, it is the people, what happens in the environment based on activities of humans, weather hazards, and the rest, pollutions of all sorts, even sea pollution and a lot of other things that can be toxic to the environment. And then when that happens, the kind of problems, the kind of consequences it can have on humans, on animals, even on plants, and even if it's in the sea, what can happen to things in the sea. So we think of toxicology and care of the environment. This is one of the topics that we need to focus on, especially now that a lot of hazards is coming up. We have the global climate change, we have environment pollution and the rest. Today on the round table, this is going to be my focus, and my guest is a professor of environment and toxicology who knows all there is to know about this topic, and it will benefit the listener to be a part of the discussion. At least listen, learn, get educated. My name is Adebimpe Akindele, and today my guest is a professor based in America, Professor Babasola Fateye, who works at Grand Valley State University in America. Thank you for joining me on the program today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my honor.
The branch of science concerned with the nature, effects, and detection of poisons, the measurement and analysis of potential toxins, intoxicating or banned substances, etc., etc. Toxicology. That's what is just going to be like a topic on today's program in relations to the environment. Professor Fateye, could you briefly share with us your journey into the fields of environment and toxicology?
Thank you very much.
And then what inspired your career path?
Thank you very much. Everybody has a story. So for me, this started when I was 4-5 years old. I used to play in a little stream next to my house. So as a child, I only got into trouble with my parents because I was catching crabs, catching fish, catching frogs, or catching snakes. And that began my awareness of my environment. So much so, over a span of 5-10 years, as population changed, as use of the environment changed, even as a child, I mean a primary school child, I could see the difference in the types of fish in that environment. And so that began my interest in the environment. Fast forward, went to secondary school. Like many people, your parents want you to be doctors and nurses and engineers. I wanted to do biology, but I come from a family of healthcare providers. Eventually we negotiated, I did pharmacy because I did not want to be a disobedient child. I said, medicine, I can do it, but I don't want to do it. So I went into pharmacy. And the moment I finished pharmacy, the interest in researching things was already built in me, so much so that I cared about people, my pharmacy health background, but I also cared about the environment. The middle point of those two is environmental toxicology, because toxicology is an extension of pharmacology. And so that's where my story began. And so when I finished in pharmacy school, I went on to do a master's, and then I went to do a PhD in pharmacology and toxicology. And once you have a PhD, you can decide to do what you want to do. So I told myself, I like people, but now it's time for me to get back in the environment because that is where my original interests started.
That's nice. We're still going to talk maybe behind the scene later about catching snakes. See, that's one of the things you mentioned actually. And so that we can say has inspired your career path. Okay, what has your experience been like as a visiting professor? Because I know that you're based in America and you are on maybe visiting Elizade University and then Nigeria in general, especially at this time that when people hear about Nigeria insecurity, a lot of negative thoughts and rumors about this country or realities. What has been your experience?
To let the listeners know how much I cherish this experience, this is my second time. So first time, maybe you are a JJC, you are new, but there must be something that makes you want to come. This is my second time over the last 4 years that I have come back to work professionally here, and it has been on multiple levels rewarding. It has also dispelled a lot of misconception about Nigeria that people out in the diaspora or in the global west, what they think. I have experienced, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, impeccable hospitality. Yesterday, the person who cleans the guest house I'm staying offered me bananas. I told her, let me pay you. She said no. She insisted. So if I see a place where people are that welcoming, I have seen people give me corn. I've seen people give me, and for Nigerians, it's important to know this. An Okada man gave me a ride from Elizade University, Laramoki, almost all the way to Roadblock. I told him I wanted to pay him. He said no. I am not exaggerating. And so if I say, when you talk about my experience, so in terms of hospitality, the people of Ondo State they are amazingly hospitable people. I have felt 100% at home. Now, but that's personal.
You must have eaten a lot of pounded.
I have, and I continue to. Going to professionally, coming to work in Nigeria has been also eye-opening. I consider myself very, very privileged. I mean it, privileged to work with my colleagues here at Elizade University and other people with whom we collaborate. And these are also world-class researchers in their fields who have chosen to work in Nigeria, not because they can't work elsewhere, but they've chosen to work here. So for me, it has been professionally rewarding to learn from them, work with them, and co-create with them. So professionally, it is also has been rewarding. And finally, I want to say that this is something about Elizade University and the people with whom I have been working. So I have been privileged to work with Dr. Olayinka Osuolale, who is the director of the Center for Research and Development. He and I are co-principal investigators on the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship that has brought me 2 times now. One of the things I have valued and treasured and will stay with me all my life is the ability to collaborate and co-create. So there is a big problem in I will call it the development industry, the global West and Africa, or the global West and Southeast Asia, where everything seems to come from the top down. But what I have seen here is a group of colleagues that are highly qualified, with whom I have been able to rub shoulders as peers, and facilities to allow me to do that with them. And so if you ask me, if I'm going to come back, if you give me room, I will be back again.
All right, thank you, Professor Fateye. It's been nice listening to your experience, at least since you've been here and you plan to come back. And then let's talk about your field, the environmental realities in Nigeria or in Africa. From your observations so far, what are the things that you feel are the most pressing environmental challenges that Nigeria is facing right now?
Thank you so much. There are many issues. So full disclosure, this reference may be religious, but I present who I am completely.
Okay.
So in one record of creation, the Creator made the heavens, the earth, the fish, the birds, and ultimately he made man, and then gave man charge. So if I say the problem is, I want to say the problem is man. I don't want to focus on what I cannot change or the damage that has been done from maybe decades now of environmental mismanagement. I want to focus on what we can change, and I can only change you, I can only change me. So the biggest problem is man. Man is the only species that in just 200,000 years, we have caused more damage to the entire environment than any other species in any other time in history. So I will say it again, the problem is man much more than focusing on what the issues are. If man, as human beings, if we were individually responsible for what is in front of us, our sphere, our community, our house, our school, our neighbor, many of the problems we have will not be issues. After all, our forefathers lived on this planet and they had no problem sustaining themselves and sustaining the environment. It is because, again, this is my own philosophical response to that question. The biggest problem is man and how we choose to either be ignorant or be irresponsible for the trust that nature has given us. And the trust is not for ourselves, it's for the generations that are yet to be born.
Okay. You know, the late pop icon, Michael Jackson, he was my idol. Sang so many songs about taking care of the world, heal the world, make it a better place. He had the Earth song, Look at what you've done to the world. And then he says, it begins with me. Look at the mirror. How, you know, when you look at the mirror, you just said it that it begins with me, it begins with you. So what are the ways by which we let the people know that this thing is to be corrected by us and nobody's coming to do it for us?
Thank you so much for that. And someone I respect says you cannot do beyond your level of awareness. And so it starts with becoming aware. You know, I don't want to be political here, but there's and again, please pardon me, I'm an educator, so I will always default back to education. But it is a misnomer. It's an anomaly. If our students from GS3 decide that they are art or they are science, lawyers need to know about the environment the same way doctors need to know about literature. And by extension to the question you're asking, Ma, that we all owe it to ourselves to know our immediate environment, what organisms are there. When it rains, where does the water go? You don't need a contractor in your neighborhood to say, this water is causing a gully. We only need to make a gutter. That is communal or personal responsibility. I do not need to wait for the government if I, at the minimum, dig a gutter, a trench for water to pass through. So when it comes to the question, I think that it starts with each person becoming individually aware. And we do not need to be scientists to be aware. Our forefathers could identify leaves, they could identify patterns of weather, they could identify when to plant what. So how come with much more education we cannot do the same thing? Why? Because we have a lot of us have decided, I am a science major, I don't care about the arts, or I don't care about the environment. After all, I'm just a pharmacist. Environmental things, go talk to them. It is our collective responsibility to first become aware. Is when we become aware, then we can problem solve. We are Nigerians, we are resilient, we are intelligent. We can do whatever we set our wills to do. Across the globe, it has been happening from time immemorial, and it is not going to stop. So whatever is happening here now, it is our responsibility. I know a lot of people, this may not be what you would expect to hear, that maybe we should get more programs or more money. Money will not solve the problem of the ignorant. The ignorance will destroy even what money builds if we don't get educated about our immediate environment.
So, getting education about the immediate environment this time now can be on different aspects, like is it professionally now, or who creates awareness? How do we create awareness? The researchers themselves, how much of awareness are they creating, or
So thank you so much. Can I give a case study? Okay. So this 2 days ago at Elizade University, some of our students presented their work on, and this is in just a regular class, the job was look at butterflies on campus and count the types of butterflies that you see. I'm not exaggerating. Within 3 weeks, just 3 weeks, these students can name every single type of butterfly on that campus. They know where these butterflies are found and where these ones are not found. So, coming to your question, it becomes, we don't have to have been experts in butterflies to be able to count, observe changes. And so it doesn't have to be formal education. Now, where I'm going with that case study is this. The ultimate result of that project is what is called a citizen science project. So a citizen science project is, okay, anybody, you have a cell phone, if you're on your way home and you just see a butterfly, just take a picture and upload it to this Facebook page. You know what you are doing by doing that is you are employing everyday people, number one, to know about the butterflies or the ants in their environment. Number two, you are giving that data to scientists who can now study their own science. And because you know the origin, you already know the butterfly. When the scientist comes back and gives you that report that, little pansy butterflies are disappearing in your neighborhood, what has been changing? That result will be real to you because you have been part of that project. And the reason I use this case study is there was a paper in one of the top journals. It's called Science. It's a very top journal 2 years ago that reported the results of citizens like you and like me in the US who have just been taking pictures of butterflies. By the time you have 50 years of data, that data cannot be false. Because in Ondo State, there's 5.3 million people. If 1/10, I say it again, if only 1/10 of you take pictures of your butterflies alone and upload it to a Facebook page, what you have done is you've become aware of your environment. Number two, you've given scientists data on what is happening in Ondo State.
Let me say something about what you just said. Just this morning we got a story of a woman who went hiking. I think which country now? Beside an active volcano. They've been looking for her since.
For 3 days
Nobody
now.
even know whether she has fallen into the volcano.
Yep.
I mean the eruption and all of that. We don't know where she is. Somebody was like, it can be in a place like Nigeria where you have to run here and there to make ends meet, where maybe 10 pieces of atarudu is 500 naira. Then you want to think of going to hike in an environment that is not conducive for your life, where you can get killed. Because, when I was growing up, we used to, every weekend, that was what we played with, butterflies, we went on the field to look for butterflies, capture them and, play with them. And I can't remember whether any of my kids ever tried to catch a butterfly. Not, somebody will tell you that that's a thing of the foreign climb, something that Oyibo people would do. Or a woman who sells fufu by the roadside. What concerns her with catching butterflies? What concerns her with the loading of Facebook? The woman who sells pepper to me, if I call her on her Android phone, her child picks it, she's the one using it. So to an average Nigerian, how do we create awareness? Because when you tell these market women something, they will say, what's on? They said it on radio. It was announced. We should do this. Oh, this is how to do. They would be spreading it among themselves. So how do we go to a level where everybody understands the language of the awareness?
Thank you so much, Ma. That's a $1 million, $1 million naira question.
You're gonna pay before you leave.
So I gave the example of citizen science.
Yeah.
Now, you will remember, Ma, way back in the day, the amount of school clubs, whether it is science club or, Zonta club or different opportunities you had that built you to just be knowledgeable. Forget education. You were just knowledgeable because you had experiences. Now, this is my own take on that question. The people that will reach who you call the market women, there are researchers that do that kind of work. They're called extension workers, who they know how to speak the language, and they can choose the catchments. But now for me and for you, because you mentioned your last born in college. Now for parents today, it is important that we expose children not just to school but to the knowledge that we know. So when we were chatting earlier, I told you without shame, my grandfather was a native doctor. There are herbs that he knows that died with this generation, and those herbs, that's knowledge lost.
Yeah.
So if I take that same analogy back to this little example of butterflies. It's high time that schools begin to go on excursions. Let scientists leave their high ivory towers and go to secondary schools and begin to stimulate interest. The same kind of interest that got you into science, stimulate it in those children. Go there and bring samples of the butterflies to the children. Children are the most receptive. They are the most receptive stages of life. They are like sponges. If you tell them the names of these butterflies, they will memorize it. They will tell you the one you don't even know. And so my one of the things I want to go back again to, one of why I really have treasured my time at Elizade University is there's part of their corporate social responsibility. They do outreach programs to local high schools. Even though that's the one I attended personally a month ago was on sexual health and wellness. But the same thing applies. The same Dr. Osuolale will be glad to go to a high school and bring samples of the things we do in environment and have the children play with the sand, sieve the sand or catch a butterfly or take a picture. That stimulates interest so that we will not make the mistakes. They will not make the mistakes of the past generation where we all thought everybody must be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer. Everybody else, you have failed. No, there is as you speak now, going into the forest actually reinvigorates me. It refreshes me. And a little spin on that. Let us spin it into ecotourism. Let children see the beauty of this environment. They will be your herald. They would be one that they would herald it. And so I don't want to assume that what I'm saying is easy to do, but what we can do, remember I said it's about man, it's about the choices we make. If you know a school, for example, that is interested in environment, send them. Let them fix an excursion to come to the university and they can see what we do. Or we can also go to them. There's something called, we call them bioblitzes. A bioblitz is like 20, 30 scientists who just come to a community. Primary schools, secondary schools, grandmothers, market women, like you call it. Everybody. These are the pictures of the organisms we're looking for. Go and for the next 1 hour, go around and see how many of it you see. You bring water, you bring some snacks. At the end of the day, the joy in that community is we help the scientists. But meanwhile, you are stimulating interest in the children.
Thank you. This is Roundtable on Orange 94.5 FM, and my guest is a professor of environment and toxicology, talking about Professor Fateye. We've been talking about the environment. Let's go to the environmental issues proper now. Do you think we have environmental issues in sub-Saharan Africa? And then do you think they have enough attention on them?
We have a lot of problems. Global warming, climate change, misuse of the environment. We see it every day. Do we have enough attention? Yes. Do we have enough action? I wish we have more action. And I wish the action starts from us, everyday people, and, to rectify what we can rectify in our backyards.
Okay. Let's also, because recently we had NIMET predicting heat
flood
waves, and then the heats came. Yeah. Actually, after that, they prescribed 200 days of rain in some parts of the country. Well, in some parts of the country, we are experiencing rains right now. In some parts, they're saying it's not enough. In some parts, they're saying it's causing flooding and all of that. Is it part of environmental degradation?
It is. So usually, as a toxicologist, people talk about the things that can kill you, but there's also the things that pollute the environment. They don't kill you, but they make your life miserable. Because when we think about the environment, we're thinking about just the things that we need so that our vegetables we can eat it. But what about the environment that was originally beautiful, that is no longer beautiful? 20, 30, 40 years ago, people could go and swim in waters. Today, if you see a child wanting to swim in water, you say, no, don't jump in there. In other parts of the world, even that recreation alone is something to be treasured. And so back to your point, we do the degradation. There's the impact on the pollution on the environment. There's also the impact on us psychologically, And so we shouldn't just look at, the things that can kill the fish. Look at the impact on the economy. Look at the impact on the tourism. Ekiti State, Ondo State, Nigeria in general is so blessed with natural resources. Each time, and I'm not exaggerating, each time I wake up and I see those hills, I see the forest on the hills, it inspires awe. It inspires hope. It's, I'm like, I want to go there. And if that part is polluted, do I want to go there anymore? Do I want to come back there? Instead, I want to move away. And so to your point, degradation is costing all of us down the road in ways that we cannot quantify. Beyond just, does it make me sick? Yes, that's an important thing, but it is taking livelihood from people and opportunities as well from the government in the name of tourism, in the name of just responsible use, whether that's for farming or for just even for its environmental value. It's so.
Okay, I know what toxicology means, but for the layman listening to us, I'd like us to talk about what it means, and of course, a lot of other things are involved. We talk about heavy metals, pesticides, industrial chemicals in our daily life, and all of that. So, what's toxicology and all of these things that are involved in the pollution of the environment? Just a few of what I mentioned. What are the hidden dangers?
I like how you mentioned it as hidden dangers. They are hidden in plain sight. So it is everything that affects your well-being is toxic to you. The air with too much dust is toxic to your lungs. The people, I don't know if people still do this, but you would siphon petrol with your mouth. And you say, "Oh, it didn't touch my mouth." Before it touched my mouth, I quickly put the hose into the car. How about the fumes that came into your nose? And so I'm talking, these are all outside environments. Let's go into the house. Less than a year ago, a friend's son was cleaning their bathroom and he used vinegar and bleach. When you put those two things together, it generates a gas that is toxic to the lungs. This boy is a runner, is an athlete. It affected his breathing. The consequence of that is it would affect his sports performance, and it could even affect whether or not he gets a sports scholarship. So my point is that when we talk about toxicology, think about, like you use the right word, the hidden things. When there's a lot of focus on the things we see. Oh, look at the fish are dead. That's not my biggest problem. My biggest problem is the one we don't see, the one that will cause cancer in 20 years. Infertility, or not just infertility, but even having a child born that is deformed because you were exposed to certain things. And so toxicology is the study of all of that. Now, you could have toxicology in the environment where we're looking at impact of those things, of chemicals or human activity on the animals, the birds, the fish. But as a human being, I'm still a pharmacist, so I still have an oath to protect human life. It saddens me that today people drink things that have not been vetted by the appropriate regulatory body, which is NAFDAC in Nigeria. People expose themselves to things that you cannot verify where it came from. And I want to say this because this is Ondo State, and I'm the grandson of a Babalawo. But there's a big misconception that if it is natural, it is not toxic. There's nothing that is farther from the truth. You can harm yourself with so-called natural things that are toxic to you now, or maybe you don't feel it now. Like you said, the hidden things that is waiting for you,
such as
down the road.
Natural things that can be toxic.
Yeah.
Such as?
Very good. So, very classic one. So there are certain mushrooms that in Yoruba land they will tell you, don't touch that mushroom. Because if you touch it, you will become psychotic. It's not because somebody caused you. It's because what is in that mushroom is a chemical that when it gets into your brain, it affects the part of your brain that helps you know things and retain information. And so it's not, our forefathers, they knew these herbs. Like, don't touch this, touch that. Because experience has taught them that one, this is going to cause problems for you. This one, you can eat that one. And so these are the things that I tell people, before you put it in your mouth, ask your healthcare provider, ask people in your family that understand herbs. don't just say because you heard it on radio. They say it's good. And a little bit of information for everybody here. When somebody tells you that there's this herb or product that can do everything, that tells you it is doing nothing. Because nothing can do everything except God.
Thank you. Okay, now, there are some, you just mentioned some habits that may make people get what they're not supposed to get, maybe from eating what they're not supposed to eat. And now let's go to the policy of government, governance and regulation. Do you think Nigerian lawmakers or government have policies that in a way they can prioritize to mitigate environmental and toxicological risk in this country?
Excellent policies we have, very excellent. So the Ministry of Environment has policies about all these things. NAFDAC is an apex regulatory body here in Africa that regulates toxicity of anything that we consume. There's consumer protection. There are policies, no doubt. Now, how those policies are translated, I will come back to what I keep saying. As human beings, the government will have the policies, but if we do not have a mind to be knowledgeable about the things we're exposed to or the things we consume, ignorance of the law doesn't excuse me from the consequence of the law. The law is still there. So I think that Nigeria does have excellent policies, and we do have the systems in place. I think we can do as Nigerians, we can do a lot better to try to align ourselves with those things. And of course, the government also has the obligation to help us to, like you said, let people know these things. Awareness. Campaigns, that's a government's job. And not just campaign, come and bring a scientist. No, campaign in the language of the people, with the people, so that they can make appropriate lifestyle changes.
Okay, but are these policies enforced? Are they, because we have organs of government that should, apart from those responsible for making these policies and laws, we have the National Orientation Agency, who are supposed to be working, or who is supposed to be working with researchers and all these regulatory bodies. Do you think they're doing enough?
They are working, but they do need to do more. And when I say they do need to do more, that's not to say that we don't appreciate what they're doing, but I'm looking at consequences, things that are going on. So let's talk about environmental degradation in the Niger Delta, for example. Now, that's a big problem. It's a long-term problem. And you have the Niger Delta Commission, for example, that oversees that, also in parts of Ondo State. Here is what I would say. I will speak to my own tribe now. I will speak to my own tribe as academics. As academics, and this is a general call to academics, we cannot stand in the sidelines and criticize. We know some of these things. I think there's about that time where we need to have a different kind of public-private partnership where academics can maybe contribute to some of those conversations and maybe assist with either translation of policies to the lay people, or even help in volunteering their expertise. But to say that the government is not trying, the government is, I believe, trying what they can, but there's just a lot of problems that it will take more than just the government to enforce and to make people aware. So I think that, Nigeria, it's for all of us to rise up to support government, to support our neighbor and support ourselves, whether you're an academic or you're not an academic. So that's my own approach to that. But things have gone bad for a long, long time, and there's a lot of cleanup that we all need to do.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about environmental and toxicological issues, whether they receive adequate budgetary allocation and political attention in African countries. Because I was watching a documentary on environmental degradation in the Niger Delta and the amount of billions that it would need in dollars this time, not in naira, to take care of it. And then we still see a continuation of these of activities that put these areas in jeopardy. Talk about all these the pipeline vandalization. We talk about people who are companies that deal in oil exploration, and they pollute everywhere, they destroy everywhere, and no care is given to such areas. Do you think government is doing enough? Aside the money, the huge amount of money voted for that area, do you think government is doing enough as to, okay, we have voted this amount of money there, let's put in this amount of task force, people, teams who would ensure that that place is cleaned up? Because if you see life of people on the sea, you wonder.
Yeah, and this story is a very touching story. It's a very difficult, the experience of our brothers in the Niger Delta and oil producing areas. So this is a really touchy topic. So I cannot come and say that enough is ever going to be done. So it's not just that the government is not doing enough. I'm saying that we all are not doing enough. Because let's talk about the pipeline vandalization. The people that are vandalizing pipelines are doing it either because maybe they're dishonest, they don't have jobs, or whatever the reason, or maybe it's even out of vengeance. Now, do they have a right to be hurt or disenfranchised? Yes, they do. It's their land, it's their family's land, it's their heritage that has been affected. And so I can't say that the government is doing enough. We all need to do more. If we go back to who we used to be as a people, we all cared about our neighbor. If we all cared about our environment. And I think we need to start to reorient ourselves to realize that it's our land. And let me come back specifically to the Niger Delta area. If the global north or the global west, if they pump $1 trillion, they pump $1 trillion, let me even make it better, $1 trillion every 10 years. The problem of the degradation of the Niger Delta areas will not be reversed in 50 years. So if the global north pumped $1 trillion every 10 years into the entirety of the Niger Delta, it is not enough to reverse the damage. You cannot restore lost biodiversity. Neither can you restore the life that has been lost as a result of the damage that has happened in the last 50, 60 years of oil exploration. And so we're at the point where we're saying the damage is too much. But whatever it is, the potential for the future is still always greater than our past. And for that future to work, we need to begin to realize that it's our collective responsibility. We all need to begin to be responsible with the pure water sachets that we have. Be responsible with the bottle that we use, the waste that we make. Now, for example, this is in Nigeria, everybody drives a big with just yourself in it. There's nothing stopping you from carpooling with people in your neighborhood. It is not a sign of poverty. It is a sign of responsibility to your environment. Because if we depended less on gas, that is on petrol, then the dependence on fossil fuels will be less. Now, is that something that will change in our lifetime? But it starts with reorienting ourselves. Remember, my own thesis here is it comes back to man, you and I, what we do on a daily basis. We can't expect to want to drive big cars and ride ride and use so much energy and expect that energy is just coming from nowhere. Everything comes at a cost, and the downstream costs is why what is happening in oil producing areas will continue. And so it's not just because I'm not from Niger Delta, so this is not my problem. No, if you don't need to drive a car, get a bus and get on the bus. Nobody is too big to get on the bus.
Thank you, Prof. There was a time it's a long time ago now, I passed through Ewekoro. I was going somewhere in Ogun State, and I saw the environmental pollution because of the cement factory there. I've never stopped thinking about that area, the kind of people the people living there, because I had to do some research where I got to know that a lot of people there have respiratory infections, respiratory problems, and it makes me feel like, why cite this type of thing. I mean, in that kind of area. Or somebody said it's been there before the city went there to meet it. Okay, now the place is expanded. Why not take it away to somewhere far away? So how can Nigerian universities or research institutions become more active in solving this kind of problems, or maybe collaboration with other countries like the United States who may not have this kind of problem I just talked about?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That's a brilliant question, because we have an obligation as a country to be productive, because some people have jobs in that factory. At the same time, the waste from that factory is causing problems for people who live there and cannot afford to go and live in a GRA. And so here is, by my own philosophical or faith leanings, here is, I will still come back to, we need to care for the man, the helpless, the poor, the ones that can advocate for themselves. That's where we as academics, as institutions, non-profit organizations, we need to begin to do those types of partnerships. Universities have to stop being silos of information. If it's a silo, it's just grain that is of use to nobody. We need to take the theory to the practitioners being non-profits who are in that area that focus on environment, and then partner with the other business organizations, such that, in this factory you're pumping out this much of cement. What we need to do is we need to get citizen advocacy groups, get local leaders, get universities to let them know that this is the cost of remediating those pollutants. This is what we need to do to contain those pollutants so that it's not released into the environment. That way, the company has information, and the company also has public buy-in into their process. Once there's that feedback, now you are creating a community where we can begin to hear each other, and the scientists can let the company know that this is a consequence of all this cement on these people, and the advocacy group will tell the company and will tell the people, this is what you need to look out for to see that if you are being affected, and this is the doctor you should call if you have this problem. And so we are solving our problems, and your company will report you to the Ministry of Environment, because you need to contain your effluent so that it doesn't, or your atmospheric waste, so that it doesn't pollute the environment. And can I say that I have a case study of this, and this is in the US. This was very recent, less than 10 years ago. There was a city in Michigan called Flint. They just noticed that a lot of children were born and they were having some neurological damage, and these signs are very similar to lead poisoning, like we've had in Nigeria too in the past. And it turns out that one doctor, a female doctor, took that case up personally, and she began to, they took they took children, took their blood to measure the amount of lead in their blood. The amount of lead in the blood of children in Flint, Michigan, was way, way, way above the threshold of what should be acceptable. And this woman went ahead, did research, published the research, but did not just leave it in the university, reached out to the city, reached out to advocacy groups. Before you know it, the whole world knows. For the next several years, you know what the government had to do? First of all, it led to a lawsuit that affected the governor. Second, they changed all the lead pipes, because they eventually found out that the lead was leaching from lead pipes. So they changed all the lead pipes in the city. For those years in which they changed the lead pipes, the government had no choice but to buy bottled water for everybody and bring tankers of water. And so what is happening here is happening all over the world. But one thing I see different is that universities don't just stay in the back. You have this knowledge. Don't just publish in a scholarly journal that will be read by 20 people in your field. Write that result in a way that the people that are affected can understand what it is. And let's not publish abroad. I publish in this big journal abroad. No, also disseminate your findings on a program like this, because you are the expert. The people need to know. Don't just think about writing and publishing. Come to OSRC and ask for Mrs. Akindele. She will be willing to give you audience so that the people can know the results of your research. That is responsible academic work, not just I publish so that I'm promoted. You are only one person promoted out of billions of people promoted. You have not used your tools to improve the welfare of the common man. So that's my response to that. Again, my thesis is it comes back to man. It's our job. It's not the government's job.
Okay, now, from what you said happened in Michigan, there was a time, okay, let me not talk about behind the scene I'm visiting because I don't want to make myself a prey to the outside world. My sister was talking about I can't take that water. This is the one I'm going to take. She would always go to the store, to the mall to buy water for drinking. I'm sure it was because of how unsafe water may have been in Michigan at that time. How can there be any collaboration between maybe United States and Nigeria in the area of, solving the local environmental challenges that we have? Because if it was in Nigeria, nobody would have cared to notice whether there was any lead poison or,
Well, thank you. But I would argue that where there's a will, there's always a way. If we are only concerned about ourselves and not the person that doesn't have a voice, the poor, the weak, the marginalized, then what is our religion? Nigeria is one of the most religious countries in the world. And I say, what's your religion if your expertise as a toxicologist, your expertise as whatever, a doctor, is not affecting lives? We can save lives by using our professions. And so back to your direct question, Matt, again, as an academic, I will say this to my colleagues across the country. You're all very brilliant. You've earned your degrees, but let's get out of the ivory towers and solve real world problems. And to solve real world problems, my direct answer to your question is, if you're only solving the problem using your own discipline. If I'm a chemist, I only do chemistry problems. If I'm a biologist, I only do biology problems. If you're only using your discipline, I can tell you that you are doing it wrong. Because we live in a world where they don't say, oh, this cement problem is a chemistry problem. No, it's a public health problem. It's a biology problem. It is a social problem. It's an economic problem. And so academics, this is my charge to you. Go collaborate with the people in social sciences. And I'll give one more example about this, if you don't mind, ma. During the COVID era in the US, the whole world, the scientific community worked really hard to come up with a vaccine in record time. It's unheard of. You don't develop a vaccine in less than 2-3 years. It's not possible. That's why they won the Nobel Prize for it. Guess what? Despite having done all that science work, lab work, scientists with all their big grammar, they ended up getting a vaccine. But guess what? When you try to now deploy the vaccine, religious groups rose up, or some people rose up and said, oh, if you take the vaccine, you will become an alien.
Bill Gates did this, he did that.
And so you will become this. And that's the problem. When I say the problem, I say that because if those scientists, when they were developing the vaccine, they had brought in social scientists, they had brought in the other groups, their other colleagues in other disciplines, they would have been able to craft that message well from the beginning. I don't know, you also remember the polio problem, where in the north, in parts of Nigeria, let me not just say in the north, in parts of Nigeria, polio has become a very difficult problem, not because polio vaccine doesn't work, but because the scientists need to work with the anthropologists, the sociologists, and all of those people to be able to reach certain ethnicities or certain populations in their language for them to understand it. So that's my response to that. We need to collaborate to solve bigger problems.
Thank you. Let's also talk about community and corporate responsibility because this is also involved in this topic. What's the role of private sector, especially industries, in contributing to or resolving environmental pollution?
Oh, big roles that the industry has. The industry still controls the money, and so now this is my own suggestion. Industries should begin to sponsor research opportunities for undergraduates in areas of concern to them. Do
you mind if I quickly save this?
Yeah, so industries need to begin to sponsor undergraduates at the tertiary level to do research related to their programs in universities. Now, they can't stop there. They need to begin to endow graduate students. So one of the things I see here is graduate students pay for their own research. If you are paying for your research and you still have to live a life, and you probably don't have a job, how do you expect that person to use the best reagents to get the best unbiased results if his life depends on it? So he's already biased. That means whatever he publishes will be the bare minimum. And so industries have to rise up and begin to be the ones sponsoring our master's students, our doctoral students, because let them come and do their analysis with you. Endow them. When they graduate, they will come back and work for you and their skill in the areas you're concerned about. And finally, don't stop there. Endow professorships to study if maybe my industry affects the environment. Endow a professorship in environmental toxicology. Give a few million naira to a professor to help you investigate. We don't all have to wait for TED Fund or wait for the government or wait for foreign grants. These industries, they know the things that are important to them. You tell us in academia and we'll solve problems for you. That is a partnership that I want to see happening. Students should not be the ones to be using their money to try to do projects.
Thank you so much, Professor Babasola Fateye, who works at Grand Valley State University in America, coming on the program today. It's been nice having you.
It has been my absolute honor. Thank you so much for what you do. You are the ones educating the people, and so you hold a very high position in our society, and we ask that please continue to do programs like this because people need to know. And I will, when I get back, I'll tell my colleagues, you need to come to OSRC.
This is Orange 94.5 FM, and the Roundtable is one of our current affair programs.
I see.
In the news department.
Okay, so please, to all my colleagues, I highly welcome you to come back to Orange FM and share your expertise and share your knowledge, share your passions, because people will run with it if you share it appropriately, and we can make a little bit of impact, and let's leave the rest to God. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. My name is Adebimpe Akindele, and this is where we draw the curtains today on the Roundtable. Join us same time next week for another interesting and educative edition. Bye now.
Land of peace. This may sound funny, but when I look around, that is what I see. Land of such ethnic and cultural